All right. Good morning, everyone. What a crazy pre-market action here. Yeah. So we're going to take a look at the indices first, try to digest all of this tariff news and everything. So we can see that the SPY is down over 3% pre-market. And where does that leave us as far as levels? Well, let's take a look here. And we can take a look with this SPY at the log scale fib here, the 1.414, which was a very important level before. It did go below it multiple times, right? Back in 2024 and also in August of 2024, it went down to the 1.272 even, right? So right now, pre-market back in that zone, that territory, that 548.25, and that's going to still be the focus from basically Monday, right? Monday was around there too. Actually, Monday opened up right around the 549 and then went down to 546, right? So we are kind of in that similar situation where we're going to open up a little bit lower and we'll see how price reacts at that level. So I think what we really saw over the last few days is just price went up so they could just send things back down to where they were on Monday, and some cases even lower than Monday, like the IWM. But if we go to the left here, we can see that the September lows down here were basically in the 530s, right? 530s, 540s. So I could see us continue, maybe flush out maybe early morning and then maybe get to the lower 540s or even probably the high 530s again. But I think if we can maintain this kind of like a higher low here, this could offer some good support, and perhaps even by Friday we could even close back above that 548. So that is going to be the goal for me, to watch this 548.25 for the rest of the week. I want to see if price can reclaim that, stay above it, and if so, if we cannot close above it, then I think there could be a chance that price can stabilize and continue its journey up. But if not, then we got to be a little bit more concerned and cautious and see maybe price needs to go back down. And QQQ, we can see that price is right back down to where it was Monday, almost exactly. And right there, Monday exactly, we can see that it opened at 461.92, and the low is 457.33 on Monday. And where do we have now? 457.43, right? We are basically at the exact low of the Monday low, and that's pre-market. So we are going to pay attention to that. Also, the September lows down here are in the 450s as well, so I will pay attention to that. But ultimately, 465 is going to be the goal to close above for the week on Friday. And if that can happen, then I think prices have the potential to stabilize. But if not, then we do have to consider lower possible targets at that time. So I'm just waiting to see how things close the week on Friday, just to see if we can get some stability or not. So today could just be like a shakeout day. So we'll see. Take it one day and 1 week at a time, as usual, with the indices, with every stock and crypto. And the IWM is actually going a lot lower than it did on Monday. It's getting punished the most. But if we turn on the linear scale fib, it's actually touching this 382. It's wicking below it for the first in a long time. And the last time it did it was April of 2024. So we are back to April lows. So basically prices where we were a year ago, we are back there. And now that kind of means that we need to see if really things can stabilize in that zone, right? We need to see that. And if we go look to the left, this zone was kind of a big previous resistance zone in the past. And now we are trying to hold as support. We've been trying to hold levels as support on the way down, breaking one level at a time. And the most recent one that happened yesterday, if we just look, price went back up directly to 203 and then got rejected. So we had a support here, then it kind of flipped it to resistance. So 203 was flipped to a resistance and it went down lower. So that 193.30 is now the target to pay attention to see if price can stabilize on top of that? And if so, then I think it has a good chance of a stabilization simply for the fact that it's back to where prices were a year ago. So this has gotten beaten up the most out of all the indices. So I think it has the best opportunity to try to stabilize in that zone. All right, let's go take a look at Bitcoin next. And we'll take a look at Bitcoin here. So what happened yesterday? I think to put it into simple words for yesterday is they sent things up just so they can send things down to exactly where they were for the past week in a row, right? The past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the past 6 days in a row, it's been in the same zone, the same vicinity. So to get maximum fear, they made a rally of the day before. Then the news came out, and then boom, directly up to the daily cloud here, and then an immediate rejection off that daily cloud, and then right back down to where the lows were on April 1st. And now we're basically right in the same exact zone as well, and nothing ultimately has changed with Bitcoin. So the stabilization for Bitcoin is actually pretty powerful right here at current prices, right? We are not seeing any kind of dramatic sell-off. We're not seeing anything except the exact same thing where prices have been for the past 6 days in a row. And in fact, if you go to look to the left, even in March, they were at that same level for many days in a row. And also, even in February, prices were at that same level as well. So we are at an important zone where it does really have a potential to hold. So I'm going to be watching that. I want to watch this baseline right here at 82,679 as well. I want to see if daily candles can actually start to close above it for an actual relief rally to go higher. But currently it's underneath all these indicators here. I can even put on the SMAs and we can take a look that it's still under all the moving averages as well. So there is no momentum to the upside per se, but we do see that price is at the same exact range where it's been for a while. Okay, let's look at some of these comments here. I see some crypto there. And good morning, Dead Cat Bounce. We're going lower. Please be careful watching these live streams. Okay. Thanks, Raul. Morning, Matt. Good morning, Matt. Still bullish on coin. Yeah, we can take a look at coin. Actually, I'll do those altcoins first. Let's see if I can take a look at that. ALCH. Yeah, ALCH. I don't know if there's much history on this one. We'll see. Yeah, I can't really chart this one. It's not too much. It's just too short of data, right? ALCH. Yeah. Let's take a look at rare. I prefer charts with more data. I can be more accurate. Like this one has more data, right? Right, rare. And this one is looking like bottom, right? We can see rare right here is trying to form a bottom right here. And we can see that price is exactly where it's been for basically almost a year and a half or a little bit, almost 2 years, really. It's at the same level. So we can just draw a line and assume like, okay, this is going to be our base, right? If this kind of holds, this 5-cent zone, if that holds, but if it starts to close weekly candles underneath that 5 cents, then I think it's just going to be continuing to fall and go lower and lower and lower. So there is no momentum to the upside at all. It's just trying to build a base and a foundation here. But far it's successful. But just to know, since there is no catalyst to the upside, no momentum, it could easily just watch that 5-cent zone. If it holds, great. If not, I would be super careful with that. Super duper careful. All right, so let's take a look at Coinbase here in the pre-market. So what is Coinbase doing? It's down at 168, right? We can see 168.91. It's down 14 bucks. But let's take a day basis of what really happened here. So price opened exactly where price is now, right? We can see it opened at 169.38. Right now it's 169.16. So it basically opened exactly how it did on Monday. And we are looking at something maybe similar to that right now. I also go back to the left on the daily chart and see that price is kind of in that same zone where it's been back in September of 2024, and it has potential to hold. So this is a stock that is actually not going lower than how it did on Monday yet, right? So that Monday low was 163.52. So we can watch that low for today and see if it holds. And then if it holds, then we could probably see maybe a relief rally back up towards the resistance above. But what happened yesterday is it just went up to the resistance above near the conversion line and it got rejected. So there we go. Like there's kind of like an obvious rhyme to the reason, right? Or a reason for the rhyme. And we can see that price just went to resistance just so they can send it right back down to this zone. So let's watch the 163 zone for the rest of today and the rest of the week just to see if it can regain some of that momentum right there. And AMD, is AMD actually going lower as well? Yeah, it's going actually right back down to the blue level of the GAN, but let's look at the March numbers, the March lows, right? So it is going lower than it was Monday, but it's not going lower than the March lows. So if it's not going lower than the March lows, that has a great potential to hold. But I think the main thing to focus on with AMD is this monthly cloud, right? It can easily go back down to the bottom of the cloud or the top of that cloud in the 95s, 94s, which is the same zone that it was last month, right? Last month it went down to 94 and it could even go down there again. But this is still, like I said before, a bottoming process. All we can pay attention to was how price behaved during last week. And I told you guys actually last week, made a post about it, or I was on live stream, that it went right back up to the 200-week moving average, and that is resistance. And so always I'm more cautious at resistance than I am support, but now it's right back down to support zone. So it looks better and better to me that it does have a potential to hold right there. So AMD, the closer gets down to 94 down here, I think the better the risk reward, but I think it does have a good chance of stabilizing around current price, right? Maybe 98, 97, 96. So let's just watch that, but it's not going lower than March. And if things are not making lower lows, then I think they have a better chance of stabilizing. All right, we'll do ELF. ELF on a shelf. Eyes, lips, face. So there we are. ELF is actually back down to Monday's lows as well. And Monday's lows was 60.35. We are at 61.10. So not quite low, not quite as low as that. But we do need to pay attention to a couple things. And that's the 1.414 fib at 62.58. It's been maintaining that. But let's not forget about this blue GAN level here at 57.59. That was the breakout level. Previous resistance breakout. So going back down to that GAN level is very possible. So we'll watch that 57.59 right there to see if price can actually stabilize on top of that. And if so, then I think we can see some kind of stabilization, right? Some consolidation in that zone before trying to find a bottom. So this could be what I was looking for the whole time, right? A big breakout to the green level. We got some liquidity at that green level for a while, for many months, right? And then that was kind of the top. And then price just went back below the cloud and the green level and the arcs. And once it came back up to flip this arc to a resistance, it was basically all over, right? It was all over and then straight down to all of this territory down here. So do I think it's going to stop around here? I think it really wants to go to the 57s, right? I think it wants to go there to get that symmetrical support and get that liquidity down there as well. So I'm going to be watching that for ELF to try to stabilize, which could ultimately be some kind of bottoming formation for ELF. All right. And Tesla, yes. Yeah, HBAR to 14 cents, actually. Let's do HBAR first. Yeah, HBAR to 14 cents actually made sense perfectly, right? It made perfect sense to go to 14 cents. It's not there yet, but it does make perfect sense to go there, right? It makes perfect sense to go there because of this 45-degree angle and the 50-week moving average and the 200-week moving average is all kind of there in the 14-cent zone. So it's still kind of holding this orange level of the GAN here, right around 16, 15 cents. But I still think 14 cents does make the most sense for HBAR. So that's going to be what I'm watching the most right there. Yeah, could I do? Yeah, I'll do MSTR before I do Tesla. So MSTR actually is looking really nice compared to a lot of other things, right? It is right back down to where this green GAN level is. A little bit lower would be 283, 282. And what we can see with that is if we put on the monthly baseline, that is actually right at the same price, right around 280, 281, 282. That orange little line right there. So we are at a monthly support level. We are at an important GAN level. We are at important levels for MicroStrategy. So I'm not going to be too concerned about this one. It's holding up relatively well under the circumstances. Go to the daily chart for MicroStrategy. We can actually see that all that happened yesterday is went up to the 50-day moving average, kind of got rejected, and it came back down. So even the daily baseline does sit down there right around 287. So we could go a little bit lower. But yeah, this one is really nicely still above the March, the Monday low, right? Monday low. So this is going to be very important level to hold. So let's watch this and down to maybe 282, 281, that zone for today. Yeah, so MSTR is not doing too bad. We can go to Tesla. And Tesla is not doing too bad either. We can see that Tesla basically went back up to the 200-day moving average right there. And now it's going back down to the conversion on the baseline today, which is right around the current price. So the daily conversion baseline is right there. We can go to the weekly chart too, and we can see that price is still super nicely above the ARC and the 200-week moving average. So in comparison to everything else, Tesla is actually a beautiful chart because it's nowhere even near its lows from back in March, nowhere even near that. And it's still nicely above the market symmetry of the ARC here and the cloud and all the averages. So yeah, Tesla, the strength is obvious for this one. Looks like it probably wants to continue its journey higher after all this shenanigans is over and done with. But we got to just wait it out and come back down to the 250s. I think it is possible. But one thing to pay attention to right here is this 50% fib, the 258. So I think if prices can just stabilize on top of that, then we don't need down and retest lower levels. We can probably just wait it out, and it can most likely just try to stabilize on there. So that is the most important thing for me to watch for today. 258.15, try to stabilize on top, and I think in the weeks to come, it can get a lot more bullish. So yeah, Tesla in comparison does look the best. Let's see, ADA. Yeah, we'll do more crypto here. So ADA is actually right back down to this 60-cent zone, which is kind of obvious to me, right? Because if you look at the chart, it kept on getting rejected by the 200-week moving average right here. This purple line is the 200-week, and that's 72. It can never close above it, so it went below it. And now we're at 62.21, and we can still go a little bit lower, even to the 59-cent zone right down there. So I think what we're looking at is just retesting that, maybe even retest the cloud. But what it's doing is just a nice formation, really big breakouts, just doing a back test right now. And we have a potential to stabilize in this zone. Is AMD a buy now? Yeah, I already did AMD, but it's in a support zone, and it's in a high time frame support zone. So take that with a grain of salt, right? I mean, usually when you look at something that's retesting a monthly cloud and a monthly GAN level and all that stuff, then it's usually a nice indicator that support is likely to hold, right? Likely to hold. So we'll pay attention to those levels. But yeah, I think it looks really nice at those levels. And let's continue here with a few more. I wanted to just touch on XRP too, since we were talking about some crypto. So XRP, we'll go to the weekly chart, and just to let you guys know, it's almost going back down to the baseline, which was always a possibility, right? I think I mentioned that before when we talked about it, that baseline's around like 194. So what did we get to right now? We got to 196. So 196 is not 194, so it still could go a little bit lower. And then we have the ARC again down below here, which is around 186, 187. and it's already wicked down there multiple times. So it's just building a nice foundation, I think, on top of this. And it's one of the charts, one of the few crypto charts that's of everything on the baseline, right? The weekly chart with the baseline, and even on the monthly chart, it's above everything, right? The only thing that's the same as this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still above the monthly conversion and the monthly baseline as well, and so is XRP. And that monthly conversion line right there is around 192. So I still think it's probably going a little bit lower first to get that liquidity below before it goes higher, but it's perfectly healthy, perfectly normal, and still this is one of the more bullish charts out there for crypto, right? One of the most bullish ones. So yeah, let's see, low 190s, high 180s, I think is going to be the target before any kind of reversal, since this 225 was lost as support. Okay, and I think, yeah, I'll do a couple more if you guys have any. ARP. Is it ARPA or is it ARP, the Advisors Inner Circle Fund? Maybe that one? Yeah. All right, I guess it's, yeah. So the Inner Circle Fund is going to the cloud. It actually doesn't look that good, right? On the weekly chart, this does not look that good. There is a gap up here, so it could try to close that in the 28s. But that gap, we don't know, right? With this chart got into the cloud, it already rejected a lot of resistance and it came lower. So the takeaway from this one is perhaps price does actually want to continue lower. So I think maybe it can go back up to the 28s again, but I think it might roll over and just go to touch the bottom of the cloud or the 100-week moving average, 2679. So this structurally, it broke a lot of levels and it got into the cloud, and it does not want to break any of this resistance above here. Like, this baseline was a super strong resistance for ARP. So there we go with all of this, guys. I mean, basically, yeah, just pay attention to the charts that are actually not really going lower than they were in March or last Monday. So yeah, we got to pay attention to levels. Oh, I see another one, HIMS. So HIMS, yeah, it went back up yesterday, got rejected at 31.57, and now we're in limbo again. But guess what? It's not going lower than what it did on Monday. So what do we see with this? Well, it has potential to stabilize, but it also has potential to go back to this previous high right here with 540, that zone, right? So it's just in a range right now. It's just stuck in between the 25s and the 30s after losing all of this support. But this is actually a very normal thing for HIMS to do because it is super volatile, very, very volatile. So we'll take it one day, 1 week at a time. But yeah, it's stuck. 25.40, 31.57. I like it closer to support now since it did lose all this support. Now it's all resistance. So it's just resistance until we can see a weekly candle close back above that level. Google, you're thinking about starting a position. I wouldn't, right? I think I would be cautious with Google personally, right? It's back at the 2021 high, so it does have a good chance of stabilizing, but it's starting to get underneath and get rejected by this 100-week moving average. So I would just be cautious with this one until we can get confirmation that it really wants to stabilize on top of this 151. And right now, we don't really have that. If the week closes above it and next week closes above it, then perhaps it can stabilize. And it still is a higher low back. And so, yes, it has potential, but because of the QQQ is weak, because of a lot of things are weak, I would just be cautious here because it could easily come back down to the 140s or even go back down to retest the 200-week moving average at 136. So me personally, I don't really like anything in the QQQ, to be honest. I mean, besides, like, I think Tesla might be in there, right? But anything of the magnificence, right? I don't really like Google. I don't like Apple. I don't like Meta so much. Microsoft looks terrible. Amazon looks fine, though. I think Amazon can be fine. Amazon, yeah, I mean, it's going back down to the cloud here. It's still nicely above the weekly cloud. So I think what we're seeing here is Amazon can have a nice recovery. So out of all of them, I would be more inclined to be a buyer of Amazon than anything else. Me personally. All right. Love that you're so efficient in covering charts. Thank you so much, Golden Parachute. Okay, guys. I think that's it for today. So we're gonna just go back, do a little review, recap. Yeah, SPY. It's getting back into the cloud. It's going back below this channel right here. So I'm really going to be watching this level, right? This 548 level. I'm really going to be watching that. We can go right here for SPY. All right. This 548. I'm really going to be watching that like a hawk for the rest of the week. I want to see it close back above it to be more optimistic. Otherwise, I'm going to be more cautious, right? QQQ. I want to see it back above the 465 by Friday. If not, I'm going to be a lot more cautious, right? The IWM, I want to see it back basically above this 193 at a minimum, or I need to be more cautious, right? So I'm always about confirmation. If prices can stabilize on top of levels, then I'll be more optimistic. But if not, then we got to be realistic and we got to be cautious, because breaking support levels does mean that they could easily flip to resistance and can go a lot lower. Yeah. So with that said, be cautious with a lot of things, right? AMD, Tesla, Amazon, those look really nice. Even Enfield looks pretty good again. Once finally it looks good again, right? But yeah, there's a lot of things out there. I would be cautious. We're just going to watch those levels for the rest of the week. And for Bitcoin, what I'm watching the most for Bitcoin is kind of this baseline right here, the 110. That's what I'm watching for Bitcoin. I want to see if price can actually go back up above it. And if it can, great. If not, it might need to go down to the 50-week moving average, right down there at 76. But even if it did go back down there, it would not be a lower low from March. So some things to think about. If you look at the March lows and you look at today's price, if they're not going lower, then things have potential to recover. So with that said, guys, I think I might take tomorrow off, but I'll see you guys next week. Take care.